Now the second part of the notes is comparing function value to 0. When I say function value, I'm actually talking about y value to 0. Okay, so please remember that. So which variable x or y does the function notation f of x represent? It represents y value. So you should know that you can write your function as f of x equal to something or y is equal to something. It's just the different names, different notations. Now when f of x is equal to 0, in other words, y is equal to 0, where is that on your graph? So let's visualize it. Where is it y equal to 0? Right here. That's y is equal to 0. What is that called? It's called x-axis, on x-axis. So if f of x is greater than 0, in other words, y is greater than 0, where is that on the graph? So if the y is equal to 0, that's over here. How would you describe it? Would you agree that's going to be above the x-axis? Yes. Last but not least, f of x is less than 0. That's y is less than 0. Where is the y is equal to 0? Over here. Negative y is below the x-axis. Cool. Now let's go ahead and highlight it. First, f of x is equal to 0. Oops. Y is equal to 0. Where is it? Y is equal to 0. Boop, boop, boop. So your answer is going to be just the x value of those points. So x is equal to negative 3, x is equal to 0, x is equal to 6. It's not the interval because it's just the point. It's not talking about the section. Next, f of x is greater than 0, which means y is greater than 0. So where is it y greater than 0? Above the x-axis. Here, above the x-axis, like that. Now, we're going to write that in interval notation. This can be a little confusing, so let's make sure we pay attention. Alright, where does it start? X value of negative 3 till, but okay, one question. Should I include negative 3 or not include negative 3? Well, I'm talking about y is strictly greater than 0. At negative 3, it is equal to 0. So I actually should not include negative 3. Are you guys good so far? Do I need to pause at negative 1? Nope, everything is above it. So I don't need to pause it until where? Right here. Do you see that it's on the y-axis? We don't want it on it. We want it above it. So you actually need to put the pause at x equal to 0. And start again at x equal to 0. Keep going, all above x-axis until x value of 6. That was a little confusing, wasn't it? Alright, then the last one, when f of x is less than 0, which is y is less than 0, below the x-axis. Below the x-axis over here, below the x-axis right here. Okay? Notice it starts over here. So if there was an arrow, your answer is going to start with negative infinity. But it starts right here, which is at negative 5. Should I include negative 5 or no? I should probably include it because it's below the x-axis. So I'm going to do bracket negative 5. At negative 3, that's on it. I don't want it on it. I want it below it. So negative 3, parentheses, union with. The new one starts at 6. Open circle. I just want it below. 2, 7. Gotta include that 7 since it's a closed circle below the x-axis. So it's a bit confusing. Okay, so you need to pay attention. Sometimes I can ask a question greater equal to 0 or less than equal to 0. So if it's a greater equal to here, for example, your answer would have been just negative 3 to 6, all with the bracket around. You don't have to stop at 0. If there was an equal to underneath it, that would have been closed circle, that would have been closed circle. So it really depends on the problem. So that being said, should your interval identify above as a close or open? Depends. Pay attention. Yeah, right? Okay, domain and range. We already did that, so I'm not going to do it. Then, let's go to the last page again. And do the top one and the bottom ones together. Alright, label. F of x, you already have a label, don't you? That's dashed line. G of x is a solid line. First, value x such that f of x is equal to 0. In other words, the dashed line on the x-axis. So where is your dashed line on the x-axis? Sorry about that. That point right here, so which is going to be x is equal to 1. And did you catch here? You can actually keep going. So that one is going to be over here, 13 comma negative 1, and next one is going to be 15 comma 0, since it has a slope of 1 up, 2 right, 1 up, 2 right. So you should not forget about that x is equal to 15, although you don't see it on the graph. You know arrow means it's going to keep going, so you need to do that part as well. Haha, that was tricky, wasn't it? Alright, g of x is equal to 0, the solid line on the x-axis, that point right here, so x is equal to negative 4.5, this one, and that one, x is equal to 6, and x is equal to 10.5. F of x where it's greater than 0, so I'm going to actually highlight it. So dash line above the x-axis, dash line above the x-axis. So the first part starts at negative 9, above till 1, both with a parenthesis, because that's not defined. You don't want it on it, you want it above it. Union with, don't forget about the second part. After x value is 15, it's going to go up forever. So you need to say 15 all the way to infinity. That was tricky. Then this bottom part, the interval where f of x is less than 0, so dash line below the x-axis, here to 15, so it's going to be 1 to 15. These ones are tricky, so you need to it's a little confusing. The value of f(x) such that f of x times g of x is less than 0. So my question is, when you multiply two numbers and answer is negative, what does that mean? Doesn't that mean one is positive, one is negative? Or one is negative and the other one is positive? In other words, both have different signs. Then when you multiply, you get the negative. Good so far? Yeah, so let's go ahead and find where both of them have negative sign, both of them have opposite sign. First, when f of x is positive and g of x is negative. So here, that's a positive, and here it's negative, 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 positive, positive, positive. So let's try to start somewhere here. So my question is, do I start x at negative 11, or do I have to start x value of negative 9? Because this one starts here, this one starts here. Please remember, when you're coming up with both of them has to exist. In other words, it has to be starting over here where both of them exist, which starts at negative 9 with a parenthesis all the way to what? Negative 4.5. Good so far? Union with, is there anywhere else that has one positive, one negative? That one negative, that one positive. Opposite signs, opposite signs, opposite signs, both are opposite signs. Oop, from there to there. So what else? There is 1, 2, 6. Is there anywhere else? Oh, this much. Oop, that's a positive. That's negative. So union with 10.5 to 11. Oh, that was tricky. Actually, at 11, you should have a bracket there because that one does exist. That one does exist. So endpoint has to be there. So that was a little tricky, wasn't it? Next one. I'm not going to go over it with you much in detail, but answer would have been, so both has to be either positive or both has to be negative. It would be negative 4.5 comma 1 union with 6 to 10.5. So you can pause this video and review that question if you want to. Now do the following delta math problem, and I will see you next class. Thank you.